Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Eventful Endeavors. I'm your host, Mike Sherman with Felix and Fingers Dueling Pianos. Today, I am so happy to be interviewing a longtime friend of mine, Michele Grasser. She's been in the events industry for over 20 years planning weddings and events. I feel like I've probably known you, I'd say, for at least 10 years. I mean, a while. She's been planning weddings and events all over the Midwest, represented some of the most gorgeous venues, certainly some of my favorite venues she's worked at. She's recently has taken over as the events marketing manager for 3 Urban Winery locations, one in Chicago, one in DC, one in Brooklyn. So we're talking national stuff here. Each has a unique vibe that leans on the city and the locations. The teams and service are above all others. The food is fresh and unique. And if you know Michele, everyone that works for her knows she has the highest standards to provide a stress-free event that everyone will remember forever. And that's certainly my experience with Michele, is no stress. Just like everything's ready to go, ready to rock. That's how I like to do things too. Just keep things fun and chill and have a great time. So how'd I do, Michele? Does that seem like a pretty good sum up of where you're at and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, it does. And it sums up, the path that we've had for the last 10 plus years. So yeah, an introduction.
Absolutely. Great. Well, yeah, we're so glad to have you on the podcast here. So, I guess start telling me a little bit about these wineries. So, what is an urban winery, and tell me, kind of what's the difference between the 3 that we're talking about here today?
Yeah. So we, at all 3 of our locations, we have on-site wineries where we make all of the wine in-house. So we have grapes flown in from all over the country. Just kind of depends on each year, but we make all the wine that we serve here in-house. And then all of our locations are, obviously in the heart of the cities that we're located in. So that's kind of what makes it unique. People are like, you don't have, you're not growing the grapes here, or you're not an actual vineyard. So that kind of makes us unique as an urban winery. So, people who do want to have a city wedding or a city event, but love that winery vibe or love wine, this makes it very unique. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right. And it's that's not something you even kind of think exists sometimes. You just presume kind of everything is out, hours away and something like that. And just to know that there's these cool places right here in these big metropolis kind of cities. So that's awesome. And so what we said Chicago, DC, and Brooklyn. So what are the kind of different, are they identical venues just in 3 different places? Or you said they all kind of, emphasize the locations a little bit. Tell me a little bit about that. What's cool about each one of them?
Yeah, so they're each very unique. We don't follow any kind of, standard per se, other than the wineries themselves, but they are similar in some capacities, but then each one is very different. So, go to Brooklyn and it is just definitely more neighborhood vibe. You go to District is on the waterfront, so gorgeous with a rooftop. It's actually all of our events are upstairs on the rooftop. So you have that outdoor element with it as well that is covered, which is very nice because, as we know, weather is always unpredictable. Yes. And then in Chicago, our Chicago location, we do have a 4-season terrace with that space too. So, and we're talking in the heart of Chicago. So we're located in River North.
Oh yeah.
So it's really nice to have that outdoor vibe again. That's completely covered, but can be opened up. So no matter what the weather is, we do have that option, for your event. So they're similar in some capacities, but again, very unique. And then the locations are also just very different as well. So
nice.
Very unique.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I don't know. I love that. And certainly I'm here in Chicago, of course. So it's I'm familiar with the location here, but yeah, it's, we have a big team in DC and we do a lot out in New York too. So I'm excited for kind of all of our clientele from around, the Midwest and the, Northeast a little bit to check out some of these awesome spaces. Yeah. Now I see it says they're all full service venues. What does that specifically mean? And compared to what another venue might not be full service, what does that mean for our listeners out there?
So, which is a really good question. So a full service venue, or what we consider full service venue, is we provide an event manager. So you have an event manager when you book, and they are going to walk through all the details with you. And we provide everything here in-house. So your tables, your chairs, your staff, your bars, your bartender, your alcohol, your food. We have chefs on site as well. Versus what I like to call, a different beast when you perhaps rent a space and
Right.
then everything has to be brought in.
Yeah.
So the unique thing with us is that you are absolutely welcome, for example, to hire a planner and have a planner as well. That would obviously then be able to help you with some of those outside factors that you would be doing, but it's not necessary for you to have a planner
Yeah.
per se. So it kind of saves you on that level as well. And you also don't have to think about every little detail that you need to get done. So if you select a venue where it's just a space, I mean, everything down to possibly garbage cans, napkins, every fork, every spoon.
Yeah.
And we take care of all of that here. So, you hire your officiant, your entertainment, perhaps dueling pianos, um, you know, uh, your photographer and your florist, and we basically handle everything else. Um, all of our clients attend a tasting, which is not entirely unique, but what is unique about it is they get to come and they get to taste the entire menu.
Oh, cool.
So we don't say, well, what three options do you want to pick? We provide everything. So you get to try all of our wines, all of our entrees. And the other nice thing too with us being full service, it's great because we do what we call an elevated family style dinner for sit down dinner events.
Yeah.
And it is family style, but everybody gets every option that you select. So the two
Nice.
entrees that you select, everybody gets them. You don't have to track, well, this one wants beef, this one wants
Right.
fish. There is enough for everyone to have both entree options at the table for dinner, which is really nice. That's a big stress relief off of couples too, having to track like menu items. So
Well, and for guests, I mean, I'm a guest to every wedding we go to. I get served dinner, and sometimes you pick the one and you look and you're like, oh, that one looks so much better. Why did I?
right?
Darn it! I should have gone with the fish today.
What was I thinking 4 weeks ago when I
I
picked that?
know.
Yeah. And then you're
Gosh.
like, can I have some of yours? Can we split? So
Right.
So I do find that to be that's just a really nice perk to be like, nobody has to pay. Everybody gets a little bit of everything. So
Yeah. Love
yeah,
that. Now, is it exclusively weddings, or do you also do? I mean, do you do a lot of other types of events too, like any like corporate entertainment or stuff like that, or is it mostly weddings?
we do. So our bread and butter is events in general.
Sure.
Very heavy weddings, obviously on the weekends, and then we do corporate events, during the week.
Nice.
So we do entertain every kind of event essentially. So
Great. And that is awesome. Now, I mean, specifically about your current venues, but also just with your general expertise, I always like to ask a little bit about, I mean, are there any like trends that you've kind of seen recently, or even just specifically at your new venues, like something that might work really well there that maybe wouldn't work somewhere else, or just something you've noticed in the last like couple of years, especially even like since COVID? Like, I feel like weddings have changed so much since then, and sometimes I don't know how or why. Like the one I always think is like 5 years ago, we did a bouquet toss at every wedding ever. And I don't think I've done one in 2 years at this point, like maybe
right.
one time. It's just like, it's so crazy how it shifts like that. So,
Well, and I think that's exactly the point is that it is constantly shifting, it's constantly evolving, and it's always unique to the couple themselves.
mhm.
So in my experience, I've always said to couples, the bouquet toss, the garter dance, which you barely ever see anymore. Oh my God, remember that?
Oh
Um,
gosh. I was always saying nothing like sticking your head up your wife's dress in front of her dad, like
in
two
front
minutes
of
after you
everybody.
marry her.
Everybody.
Right.
And so I always say like, here's some traditional things, but whatever you want to do, we can do. We don't have to do. We can. You don't want to do speeches? Let's not do speeches. Some of the trends that I'm seeing is first dance being right after introductions.
Yeah.
So, and I've actually very much enjoyed seeing that because people are paying a little bit more attention once the introductions happen and you do your first dance right then, and everyone's kind of seated and paying attention. Versus, honestly, when you do it after dinner, people have started to get up and move. They migrate to the bar. They want to step outside, and then you're
Yeah.
losing people. And now you're ready to do those dances, and everybody's not there. So that's something that I've seen happen a lot more, and I tend to not recommend it. I just give it as an option, as a
Yeah.
suggestion. Because most people haven't done this before. This is their first time getting married, and they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So that's another thing our event managers do is just kind of walk through like, well, here's your options, but what are you thinking about? Like
Yeah.
what's unique to you? Because every every couple is different. Every family dynamic is totally different. I've had some that have had in the past years. More recently, perhaps a parent is no longer, around, so they're not there. They're like, well, what do I do? So I don't get to do that dance. Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, like you can. Let's just cater it to your situation. So that's one of the things that I actually love about events is that every event, every wedding, no two are the same.
Yeah.
So, but I
That's
think
why
that's
that's why I don't get sick of it yet, because every it's if I did the same thing every week, it would get boring after a while when it doesn't get boring.
absolutely cookie cutter weddings too. Like nobody wants a cookie cutter wedding.
Yeah.
Everybody wants unique things. So, we do our best to do that and kind of suggest based on that couple and their scenarios because it's always different. So.
Yeah. That was something I always tell people too. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but like I've seen 1,000 weddings. Like if you want my opinion, I will give it to you for sure, because I'm sure I have a very strong opinion about every aspect of the choices that you make. But
we've been doing this for years, and like you said, we've seen everything. Like, and throughout the processes, we've seen everything. And so, I somebody's going to suggest, oh, I want to do this, and like you said, I'm not going to tell you no unless it's going to start a fire. Then I might say no.
Right.
Which I've had to say no to before. But
no indoor fireworks, please.
Like right there. So, but to say, well, over the years, okay, this is what you want to do. Okay, so here's what I've seen over the years that's gone well when you do this, and here's what I've seen that's gone bad. So you kind of weigh those out and determine, is this something that you want to do then or not? For example, like a receiving line. Old tradition. That's another thing that a lot of weddings don't do anymore. The traditional receiving line.
Yeah.
And I always kind of say, here's what I've seen. Here's some ways to do it, so you don't spend your entire night, standing in line talking to people. So here's some suggestions, and then they can determine: do I want to do this at all? Do I want to do it? But this is how I want to, make sure I don't spend 2 hours meeting and greeting everybody. Because over the years, I've seen it just go awry, and then a couple ends up spending all their time doing that. So, a lot of experience over the years,
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I always say for all of our non-brides and grooms, one thing I always say is when you go to the wedding, see the bride and groom, like, it's okay if you don't get to talk to them too. Like, I always feel bad. Everyone wants their 5 minutes. I'm like, if everyone took their 5 minutes at the bride, she would not get to do a single thing all night. So just have fun and then send her a Facebook message next week and say, oh my gosh, I had a great time. Like, she'll love you and appreciate you just as much, I promise.
Yeah, and I always say in every couple, there's one that can get out of a conversation and one that cannot get out of a conversation. Because your guests will want to talk to you. They've got a cocktail and they're going to want to talk to you. And remember when you were 5 years old and you ran around with the napkin on your head like a bride, and and then there's always one that can't get out of that conversation. And so on that end too, that's a great thing with our event managers. We kind of go like, all right, we're going to have you move on and just kind of like pull them out of there. So because
be that buffer.
Suck them in. Yes.
Oh yeah. No, I've many times when that first dance is about to start and the groom just can't get away from Aunt Helen. I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to steal him for a minute. I'll be the bad guy, I promise.
Like, well, let's go.
Oh my gosh. Well, amazing. Well, I know I'm going to let you talk. We had a little special offer, I think, for people listening to our podcast, something to do with a dinner on you. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what are we able to offer here for anyone that mentions that they found you here?
Yeah. So we, at all three of our locations, again, we have one in River North in Chicago. We have one in Brooklyn, located in Williamsburg, in New York. And then in DC, we are located in the Capitol Riverfront. And each one of ours has a tasting room and a restaurant along with it. So what we are currently offering is anybody who listens to this podcast. And first of all, you can reach out to me directly. My personal contact information will be listed. Reach out to me. I will connect you with the venue to get you set up for a personal private tour where you can ask as many questions as you want on wedding planning, weddings, everything. If you do select one of our venues and book, you will be given a $200 gift certificate, for lack of a better term, to have dinner on us at our at one of our restaurants. And not only that, if you book a wedding with us, you do get to become members of our wine club as well, and get the perks that come with that too. I know, right? And get that perk as well. So we are very proud of our locations. We are very proud of our wine. It's amazing. And the food is phenomenal too. And the menus at all 3 locations are different too. So there is nothing cookie cutter either about our 3 locations except our service, really. So the menu changes seasonally too. So what you would have this week is not what you're going to have in 3 months when you go into one of our restaurants. So anybody who is looking to book or you're engaged now, maybe you don't know where to start, I'm happy to talk you through any of it. I love talking about weddings events. Like it is my passion, my love. And I love being able to kind of educate people and kind of point them in the right direction. But our venues are a great place to start. So
awesome. Yeah, and I see that too. I mean, just in working with you, it's like you always are smiling. You always seem like you genuinely enjoy being there, which I cannot say is always the case for most people. Well, I don't want to say most, but a lot of people at a lot of venues that I work at. You could tell don't really want to be there, but you never get that vibe from you. So maybe you fake it really well, but otherwise,
absolutely. Yeah.
Just one more little. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, we had parents that stopped in that didn't get to come tour with their kids that were touring and going to select this venue possibly, and they luckily happened to run into me, and I was like, oh my gosh, let me show you. Let me take you upstairs and show you. Like,
right.
I love that. So I love talking about anything with weddings and events. So
that's amazing. Great. And just one more little plug for Michele. I just was stalking her LinkedIn a little bit. Just a couple little shout outs from people that have, I'm not going to say names or places, but these are some of the things that I've said. Michele might be the best hire I've ever made. Michelle's one of the hardest working sales professionals I've ever worked with. Her passion and commitment to her clients is unparalleled. I mean, it speaks for itself, working with Michele, working with these amazing venues. Definitely, reach out to her. We'll have all of her info before, up above or below or somewhere like that, just in case you have nothing like that. I'll at least give you her email right now. It's mgrasser, and that's Grasser at firstbatchhospitality.com. So at the very least, if you're just listening and you need some way to get in touch with Michele, that's how you can find her. Check out all 3 of the venues, depending on where you're coming in from. I think anything else you want to add before we send everyone on their merry ways?
No, just, if you're just starting out at the planning process, take it in one step at a time. Do not get overwhelmed. There's no such thing as a stupid question, because again, you've never done this before. So I am happy to talk to anyone again. Anything you just want to talk about when it comes to the planning process and where to start, I'm available and I'm open to conversations. So
great, awesome. Well,
enjoy
once
the
again.
process.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, what I always say is enjoy it by get your venue right away. That's my thought too. It's those dates book up, especially these awesome venues like this, get the venue and then get everything else, get your music, get your photographer, get fill in the blanks then, but take your time. I always feel so stressed when someone reaches out and they're like, oh, we're getting married in 6 months. I'm like, okay, that's doable. But it's when they're like, we're getting married next year. I'm like, great. This is going to be a nice, fun process for you.
Yeah.
So.
You can do the short term 100%.
Totally.
You just pick and you go. You just do
I've seen them in a month. It's easy. But
yeah. And the wedding planning process, it is stressful. I just tell people too, it's going to be stressful. But I know that wherever I am at, that's not going to come from us. So, picking your venue is that's the biggest decision you're going to make. And once you make that, again, you want to be somewhere that you feel good about booking and that you can enjoy the process, because it's going to be, it'll be stressful over the next, couple months or year, however long planning. But if your venue is anything like ours, it's going to be an enjoyable ride. So
yes. And it sounds like booking with you, just by making that decision, they're already eliminating a lot of the other decisions they're going to have to make too, and just make it really simple for them. So they speak from experience. That is a smart thing to do for sure. Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, Michele, thank you so much. Once again, everyone, this is Michele Grasser. So great to chat with you, spend a little time with you. Yes, of course. And everyone else, have a wonderful day. Once again, this is Mike Sherman with Felix and Fingers Dueling Pianos, hanging out with you on our podcast, Eventful Endeavors. Have a great day, and until I see you next time, bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope to have left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, Happy planning, and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.